A lot of people also watching Florida. Florida is gearing up to implement limits on social media for minors. The new law will make Florida's ban one of the nation's toughest. It goes into effect this Wednesday, January 1st, but it's facing some legal challenges. Let's bring in social media safety advocate and the host of the Scrolling to Death podcast, Nicki Reisberg. Nicki, thank you so much. I know you're a friend of the show. Thank you for being here. This law will mean that 14-year-olds or those younger in Florida will not be able to have social media accounts. And those that are age 14 and 15 will have to have parental consent. Now, we're told that the Attorney General of Florida won't be enforcing this in terms of, at least not until those legal challenges make their way through. But the law does get implemented. It starts on the 1st. I want to bring up this graphic before we get to you here. 9 hours. That's how much time teens spend online every single day. I mean, that is more than education by just only 4.5 hours, socializing, eating, homework, playing sports. It's more than even some kids sleep. I'm wondering what you make of the Florida law, and do you think that it will survive these challenges?
I'm very hopeful it will survive these challenges. I think laws like this are necessary. Parents need help when it comes to protecting our children on social media. Social media companies have had plenty of time to try to prove to us that they can protect children. And time again, we see that children are suffering from extreme mental health issues, focus issues. I mean, they're spending nearly 5 hours a day on social media alone. So laws like this are necessary. It happened in Australia, banned under 16 years old. And I'm extremely hopeful as our parents around the country that it will withstand the lawsuit brought by organizations that are funded by the social media companies themselves.
There is obviously the challenge to TikTok right now happening in the Supreme Court. What is your message to President-elect Trump on whether or not TikTok should be banned outright?
TikTok may have been really helpful in his election. There's no doubt about that. But it's also true that TikTok is a threat to children. There are reports of children being served live murders and suicides and super depressive content on TikTok. TikTok's own internal documents show that it can become addictive to teenagers in as little as 35 minutes. So we need TikTok to be made safer. And I'm not sure that's going to happen under the ownership of ByteDance.
There have been comparisons that social media addiction is like a drug. And before we get to that, I know that the numbers show here that TikTok, 16% of 13 to 17-year-olds use TikTok as their primary social media. That's the most popular. So that's why that decision means something. The considerations, the comparisons to social media being like a drug, do we understand yet the full ramifications of social media? Because it doesn't look like we're using less. We're using our phones more. In fact, a new study came out that says we're spending 2.5 months per year as adults, average Americans, on our phones. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
The addiction to smartphones is a real thing. A recent study, so the NIH actually compared 2,500 studies on smartphones. They found that this is a real thing. It's called SA, smartphone addiction. It is significantly linked to anxiety and depression, also musculoskeletal pain and insomnia. And so we know that these smartphones are addictive, and a lot of that has to do with the addictive social media platforms.
Nicki Reisberg, thank you so much, Nicki. And if you want to hear more about Nicki, you can go to her podcast, Scrolling to Death. I know parents can learn a lot from Nicki. So, Nicki, thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year.
Thank you.